The universe learned too late why humanity kept saying, "Please don't enrage us." Part 1. The Warning. The Galactic Council chamber floated in neutral space, a massive structure built by 17 different civilizations over 3 centuries. Inside its crystalline walls, representatives from 200 species gathered for what should have been a routine trade negotiation. Ambassador David Chen of Earth stood at the speaking platform, his dark suit a stark contrast to the colorful robes and exotic forms surrounding him. Across from him sat the Crithian delegation. They were impressive beings, standing nearly 3 meters tall with scales that shimmered like polished obsidian. Their 4 eyes glowed with amber light, and their movements carried the confidence of a species that had conquered 40 star systems in the last century. Their leader, War Commander Zethus, barely glanced at Chen as the human began to speak. Chen had done this job for 20 years. He had negotiated with species whose biology humans barely understood, whose psychology seemed alien beyond comprehension. But the Crithians were different. They understood diplomacy perfectly well. They simply chose to ignore it when dealing with species they considered inferior. "Commander Zethus," Chen began, his voice calm and measured. "Earth proposes a mutual trade agreement. We offer advanced medical technology, agricultural methods, and cultural exchange. In return, we request access to the Kepler corridor for our merchant vessels." Zethus made a sound that translators interpreted as contemptuous laughter. "Humans," he said, his voice resonating through the chamber, "are known throughout the galaxy as merchants and storytellers. You travel in unarmed ships. You establish colonies without military escorts. You resolve disputes with conversation." He leaned forward, his massive frame casting a shadow over Chen's position. Why should the Crithian Empire negotiate with a species that clearly lacks the strength to enforce any agreement? Chen felt the familiar weight of this moment. He had been here before with other aggressive species. Most learned. Some did not. "We prefer peaceful solutions," he replied. "But preference should not be mistaken for inability. I strongly advise that you accept this offer. Please do not test our patience. Do not enrage us." The chamber erupted in that strange sound the Crithians made when amused. Other species shifted uncomfortably. The Crithians had a reputation. They were conquerors, pure and simple. They believed the galaxy operated on a simple principle. The strong took what they wanted and the weak accepted their fate. "A warning," Zethus said, still laughing. "The merchants issue warnings. Tell me, Ambassador Chen, what exactly happens if we refuse your generous offer and decide to take what we want instead?" Chen's expression did not change, but those who knew him well would have noticed his jaw tighten slightly. "Then you will learn why humanity has spent the last 150 years asking others not to enrage us. You will learn why we give warnings, and you will wish you had listened." Zethus stood to his full imposing height. "We accept no agreements with prey species. The Kepler corridor will be ours. Your merchant ships will pay tribute or be destroyed. This negotiation is over." 2 weeks later, a human colony transport called the Morning Star was traveling through the outer edges of the Kepler corridor. It carried 3,000 civilians, families relocating to the agricultural colony on Tau Ceti IV. The ship was unarmed, clearly marked with civilian identifiers, and transmitting peaceful intentions on all standard frequencies. 3. Crithian raiders intercepted it. Captain Maria Rodriguez had been flying colony transports for 15 years. She had never faced a hostile encounter. When her sensors detected the Crithian ships approaching with weapons charged, her first instinct was to open communications. "This is the civilian transport Morning Star. We are carrying families and supplies. We have no military cargo and no weapons. Please allow us to pass peacefully." The Crithian response was a warning shot that scorched the Morning Star's hull. "You will transfer all supplies and technology," the Crithian commander transmitted. "Then you will turn back to your homeworld and tell them the Kepler corridor belongs to the Crithian Empire. Refuse and we will destroy your vessel." Maria looked at her crew. They were civilians, transport specialists, navigation officers. None of them had ever trained for combat. Behind them, 3,000 people slept in cryo chambers, unaware that their journey had been interrupted by piracy. "We cannot give you our supplies," Maria said carefully. "These families need them to establish their new colony. But we will report this incident to our government. I am certain they will want to negotiate a resolution." The Crithian ships opened fire. Maria's crew managed to activate the emergency jump drive. escaping into faster-than-light travel even as weapons fire tore through their cargo sections. They lost 30% of their supplies and 2 crew members who had been conducting routine maintenance in the damaged areas. When the Morning Star limped into Tau City 3 days later, Maria immediately filed a report. The report reached Earth within hours. It reached Ambassador Chen within minutes after that. He sat in his office reading the details of the attack and felt something cold settle in his chest. He had tried. He had warned them. Chen opened a secure communication channel to Earth's military command. "This is Ambassador Chen. I am officially reporting that the Krithian Empire has committed an act of war against civilian targets. I recommend we escalate to Protocol 3. Protocol 3 meant measured military response. It meant showing just enough force to make a point without revealing humanity's full capabilities. It meant giving the Krithians one more chance to back down. Within 48 hours, a small human fleet arrived at the edge of Krithian space. 6 ships, each one clearly military but not aggressively postured. They positioned themselves at the boundary and sent a message. "This is Admiral James Santos of the Terran Defense Fleet. 2 days ago, Krithian forces attacked a civilian transport vessel, killed 2 crew members, and stole vital supplies meant for peaceful colonists. We demand immediate reparations and a guarantee that such attacks will cease. You have 72 hours to respond." War Commander Zethis received the message aboard his flagship, the Crimson Talon. He looked at the human fleet on his tactical display and laughed. 6 ships. The humans had sent 6 ships to threaten the Krithian Empire, which commanded over 3,000 warships across 40 systems. "Ignore them," he told his officers. "If they are still there in 72 hours, destroy them. Make it clear what happens to species that threaten the Krithian Empire." But some of his officers were less certain. "Commander," one ventured carefully, "the humans have been in space for over 200 years. They have colonies across 30 systems, yet we have never seen their military forces in action. Perhaps there is a reason they issue warnings." Zethis turned his 4 amber eyes on the officer. "The reason is that they have nothing to back up those warnings. They are merchants and diplomats because that is all they are capable of being. When we destroy these 6 ships, the humans will understand their place in the galactic order." 72 hours passed. The human fleet remained. Zethis ordered his ships to attack positions. Admiral Santos watched the Krithian fleet form up. 47 warships, a significant force by any measure, moved toward his 6 vessels with clear hostile intent. He opened a final communication channel. "War Commander Zethis, this is your last opportunity. Stand down. Accept negotiations. Do not force us to demonstrate why we asked you not to enrage us." Zethis's response was simple. Fire. 47 Krithian warships opened up with everything they had. Missiles streaked across space. Energy weapons carved through the black. It was a devastating display of firepower, enough to obliterate most fleets several times over. But when the weapons fire cleared and sensors recalibrated, all 6 human ships remained. Their shields had absorbed the attack without any apparent damage. Admiral Santos's face appeared on every Krithian ship's communication screen. His expression was sad, almost regretful. "You were warned," he said quietly. "Multiple times. We tried every peaceful option, but you chose this path. Now you will see what humanity becomes when we stop asking nicely." The 6 human ships began to change. Panels slid open, revealing weapon systems the Krithians had never seen before. Energy signatures spiked to levels that made Krithian sensors scream warnings. And then, humanity stopped holding back. The first Krithian ship simply disappeared, torn apart by a weapon that seemed to unmake matter at the molecular level. The second ship's shields collapsed under a barrage that cycled through 17 different frequency patterns in 3 seconds. The third ship tried to retreat, but found its jump drive wouldn't activate, somehow locked down by human technology. In 47 seconds, 20 Krithian warships were destroyed. The remaining vessels scattered, their commanders screaming for reinforcements and trying desperately to understand what had just happened. Zethis stared at his tactical display in disbelief. His finest ships, vessels that had conquered dozens of species, were being destroyed with casual efficiency by 6 human vessels. 6. How many more did they have? What else were they hiding? "Withdraw," he ordered, his voice hollow. "Withdraw all forces. Send a message to the Emperor. Tell him the humans are not what we thought." But Admiral Santos was not finished. War Commander Zethus, his voice came through clearly despite all attempts to block the transmission. You will not withdraw. You will remain where you are. In the next 6 hours, you will see what happens when you ignore humanity's warnings. You will see why we spend so much time and effort trying to avoid this moment, and then you will surrender. Across Crithian space, alarms began to sound as sensors detected something impossible. Human ships were appearing everywhere, dropping out of some form of travel that Crithian technology could not track or detect. Hundreds of ships, then thousands. An empire that had believed humans were weak merchants was about to learn the truth. Humanity had not been weak. Humanity had been patient. And patience, the Crithians were about to discover, was not the same thing as powerlessness, the awakening. The Crithian Emperor Dravok stood in his throne room watching reports flood in from every corner of his empire. The massive screens that lined the obsidian walls displayed a nightmare. Human ships had appeared in 40 systems simultaneously. Not just appeared, but materialized from nowhere, bypassing every detection system, every early warning network, every defensive perimeter the Crithians had built over centuries of conquest. How? Dravok demanded, his forearms gripping the armrests of his throne so hard the metal groaned. How did we not know they had this capability? His chief military advisor, General Court, stood rigid with what humans would recognize as fear. Emperor, we have been reviewing all intelligence on humanity. They have been in space for 214 years. They have established 37 colonies. They maintain trade relationships with over 100 species, but in all that time we have only seen their civilian vessels and small defense fleets. Clearly we missed something, Dravok growled. No, Emperor. Court pulled up historical data on the main display. We did not miss anything. They hid it. Deliberately, systematically. Every military installation was built in deep space far from trade routes. Every weapons test was conducted in isolated systems. Every warship was constructed in facilities that appeared to be civilian shipyards. They have been building this fleet for over a century, and they made sure no one knew. On the screen, footage played from various battlefronts. In the Helios system, 12 human ships were systematically dismantling a Crithian defense station that had taken 15 years to build. The station's weapons, which could crack planets, seemed ineffective against shields that adapted to every form of attack. In the Meridian sector, Crithian ground forces on 3 occupied worlds were surrendering to human marines who moved through their defensive positions like ghosts. But it was not just the technology that was terrifying. It was the precision. The humans were not destroying randomly or attacking with rage. Every strike was calculated. Every target was strategic. They were dismantling the Crithian military infrastructure piece by piece, and they were doing it in a way that minimized casualties. They are trying not to kill us, Court said, realizing the truth. Even now, even after we forced them to war, they are still showing restraint. Dravok watched as a human ship disabled a Crithian carrier without destroying it, allowing the crew to evacuate. Why? We attacked their civilians. We killed their people. We mocked their warnings. Because, a new voice said, that is who humans are. Everyone turned to see Ambassador Chen standing at the entrance to the throne room. He had transported directly onto the Emperor's flagship, bypassing security systems that should have been impenetrable. 2 human soldiers stood behind him, their weapons lowered but ready. How did you get here? Dravok demanded. The same way our fleet got everywhere, Chen replied calmly. We have technology you cannot detect. We have been patient, we have been careful, and we have prepared for this exact scenario for a very long time. He walked forward slowly, his hands visible and empty. Emperor Dravok, I came here personally to offer you one final chance. Surrender now. Order all Crithian forces to stand down. We will accept nothing less than complete capitulation, but we will show mercy. Mercy? Dravok's laugh was bitter. You are destroying my empire in a matter of hours, and you speak of mercy? Your military is being neutralized, Chen corrected. But look at the casualty reports. Really look at them. In 40 systems across hundreds of engagements, human forces have destroyed over 2,000 Crithian warships. Do you know how many Crithian lives have been lost? Court checked the data, his scales paling. 3,412. 3,000, Chen repeated. From 2,000 ships. We are disabling your vessels and giving your crews time to evacuate. We are using weapons that could vaporize everything. But instead we are choosing precision. Even now, even after you forced us to show our strength, we are trying to preserve life. Why? Dravok asked. That makes no tactical sense. Chen sat down on the steps leading to the throne, a casual gesture that would have been unthinkable in any other circumstance. Let me tell you a story, Emperor. Humanity has been in space for over 2 centuries, but our history goes back much further. For thousands of years, we fought among ourselves. We built weapons that could destroy our entire world. We came closer to extinction than most species ever know. And then finally we learned. We learned that the greatest strength is not in how easily you can destroy your enemies. It is in how hard you try not to need to. He looked directly at Dravok. When we reached the stars, we made a decision. We would never again be helpless. We would build defenses so strong that no one could threaten our survival, but we would only use those defenses as a last resort. We would try every peaceful option first, every negotiation, every compromise, every warning. We did not listen to your warnings, Dravok said quietly. No, you did not. And now you see the consequence. But even now, even in this moment, we are giving you a choice. Surrender and your people live. Your military will be dismantled, yes. Your conquered worlds will be freed. Your empire will end. But your species will continue. Your civilians will be safe. You will have a chance to rebuild as a peaceful civilization. And if I refuse? Chen's expression grew cold. Then in the next 24 hours, you will see what humanity looks like when we stop showing restraint. You will see weapons we have not yet deployed. You will see strategies we have not yet implemented. You will see what 3,000 warships look like when they stop trying to preserve enemy lives. Across the Crithian Empire, the war continued. On the occupied world of Trellius Prime, Commander Sarah Mitchell led her Marine battalion through the Crithian garrison. They moved through the facility with practiced efficiency, their armor's advanced systems allowing them to see through walls, predict enemy movements, and coordinate with perfect precision. The Crithian defenders fought bravely, but they were facing soldiers who had trained for this their entire lives. Every human Marine had spent years in simulations, practicing for the day when humanity's peaceful era might end. They knew 17 different combat styles. They could operate in any environment. They had technology that made them nearly unstoppable, but Mitchell had strict orders: minimize casualties. As her team breached the command center, she saw Crithian officers reaching for their weapons. "Don't," she said in perfect Crithian language. "You have fought with honor. Your empire sent you here, but the war is over. Surrender now, and you will be treated with respect." The Crithian commander looked at his officers, then at the overwhelming force surrounding them. His soldiers were elite warriors, but they were facing something beyond their experience. He slowly lowered his weapon. "We surrender," Mitchell nodded. "Medical teams are standing by to treat your wounded. You will be held as prisoners of war according to galactic conventions. Your families will be notified that you are safe." Similar scenes played out across 40 worlds. Human forces were not just winning. They were demonstrating a level of military capability that shocked every species in the galaxy. The Crithians, who had seemed unstoppable, were being systematically defeated in a matter of days. In the Galactic Council chamber, representatives from 200 species watched in stunned silence as reports came in. The Valorians, a peaceful species that had been conquered by the Crithians 30 years ago, wept with joy as human forces liberated their homeworld. The Antauri, who had fought a decade-long war against Crithian expansion, asked in disbelief how humanity had hidden such power. "They did not hide it from deception," the Antauri ambassador said, reviewing the data. "They hid it from kindness. They never wanted to intimidate us. They never wanted us to fear them. They just wanted to trade and learn and coexist peacefully. And now," someone asked, "now the galaxy knows the truth. Humanity is perhaps the most powerful military force we have ever encountered, and they spent 150 years trying to make sure they never had to prove it." On the 3rd day of the war, Emperor Dravok called for a complete ceasefire. All Crithian forces were ordered to stand down. The proud empire that had conquered 40 systems surrendered unconditionally. Admiral Santos received the surrender aboard his flagship. He looked at Emperor Dravok's image on the screen and felt no satisfaction, only sadness. "Emperor, you forced us to do something we hoped we would never have to do. You made us show the galaxy our teeth." "I underestimated you," Dravok admitted. "We all did. We saw peaceful traders and assumed weakness. We were fools." "You made a mistake," Santos corrected. There is a difference. Mistakes can be learned from. Will you learn from this one? We have no choice, Dravok said bitterly. You always have a choice. That is what we were trying to tell you. Every species has a choice between cooperation and conquest. You chose conquest. Now you will learn a different path. The surrender was formalized within hours. The Crithian military was ordered to disarm. Occupied worlds were granted independence. War criminals were identified for trial. And humanity began the massive task of helping rebuild everything the war had damaged. Medical ships arrived in every system, treating wounded from both sides equally. Engineering corps began repairing damaged infrastructure. Diplomatic teams started working with newly freed worlds to establish stable governments. The galaxy watched in amazement as humanity, having just demonstrated the power to destroy, instead chose to heal and rebuild. It was a lesson that would reshape galactic politics for generations. But the war had changed something fundamental. Humanity's secret was out. Every species now knew what humans were capable of. The question was, how would they respond? The new understanding. 6 months after the war ended, Ambassador Chen stood once again at the speaking platform in the Galactic Council chamber. But this time, every representative was listening with attention bordering on fear. The chamber's atmosphere had changed completely since his last visit. Members of the council, Chen began, I stand before you not to celebrate a victory, but to explain what happened and why. Many of you have questions. Many of you are afraid. I understand both reactions and I am here to provide answers. The Thalian representative, a crystalline being whose species had observed galactic events for millennia, spoke first. Ambassador Chen, your species has fundamentally altered the balance of power in this sector. Every civilization is now wondering, are we next? Will humanity decide that we too should be conquered or controlled? Chen nodded slowly. That fear is understandable. We revealed capabilities that we had kept hidden for over a century. We demonstrated the ability to defeat a major empire in 3 days. We showed that we can appear anywhere, strike with precision and overwhelm virtually any defense. I would be afraid too if I were you. The chamber stirred with nervous energy. This was not the reassurance they had expected. But, Chen continued, let me explain why that fear is unnecessary. Humanity has had these capabilities for 153 years. In that time, we have established colonies on 37 worlds. We have traded with 147 species. We have helped 23 civilizations recover from natural disasters. We have shared our medical technology freely, our agricultural methods openly, and our cultural achievements gladly. In all that time, we never once used our military power for conquest. But you used it against the Crithians, the Valorian representative said, after they attacked our civilians, after they killed our people, after they rejected 17 separate peace proposals, after we warned them repeatedly that they were making a terrible mistake. Chen pulled up documentation on the main display. Here are the records of every interaction between humanity and the Crithian Empire. 23 diplomatic meetings, 17 peace proposals, 42 written warnings. We spent months trying to avoid what ultimately happened. A representative from the Orion cluster stood. But Ambassador, the question remains. Why hide your military strength? Why not simply make it known and prevent conflicts through deterrence? Chen smiled sadly. Because we learned something in our early history. When people know you are powerful, they treat you differently. Some fear you, some resent you, some try to test your strength. We did not want to be treated that way. We wanted to be known for our scientific achievements, our art, our philosophy, our contributions to galactic civilization. We wanted to be friends, not intimidators. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Earth's leading xenoanthropologist, took the platform beside Chen. If I may add something, she said, I have studied 37 different civilizations over my career. I have observed a pattern. Species that display their military might prominently tend to see every interaction through the lens of power. Diplomacy becomes about threats. Trade becomes about leverage. Cooperation becomes about hierarchy. Humanity wanted to avoid that dynamic. So you lied to us, someone called out. We never lied, Chen said firmly. We answered every question truthfully. We simply did not volunteer information about our defensive capabilities. There is a difference. If you had asked, do you have weapons capable of defeating the Crithians? We would have said yes. But no one asked. Everyone assumed that because we preferred peace, we were incapable of war. The Crithian representative, a young diplomat named Kelith, who had replaced the disgraced Zethus, rose slowly. Ambassador Chen, my people have learned a painful lesson. We believed your patience was weakness. We mocked your warnings. We paid a terrible price for our arrogance. But I must ask, what happens now? What will humanity do with this revealed power? Chen looked at Kelith with genuine compassion. The same thing we were doing before. We will trade. We will explore. We will learn. We will help those who need help. We will defend those who cannot defend themselves, and we will continue to prefer peaceful solutions to every problem. But now everyone knows you could conquer us if you chose, Kelith said. We could have conquered you at any point in the last century, Chen replied gently. The only thing that has changed is your awareness of that fact. Our intentions have not changed. Our values have not changed. We still believe that cooperation is better than conquest, that friendship is more valuable than domination, and that the strongest civilizations are those that help others grow, rather than keeping them down. Dr. Tanaka activated a new display showing reconstruction efforts across former Crithian space. In the 6 months since the war ended, humanity has sent 15,000 medical personnel to treat wounded across all species, not just humans. We have dispatched engineering corps to repair infrastructure on 27 worlds. We have provided food aid to populations disrupted by the conflict. We have offered educational programs to help former Crithian colonies establish their own governments. You are helping the people who tried to destroy you, the Thalian representative observed, because they were not responsible for their leaders' decisions, Chen said. The average Crithian citizen did not choose war. They were simply living their lives under a government that made terrible choices. Why would we punish them for that? A new voice spoke up, one that made everyone turn. It was the representative from the Xanthar Collective, a species so advanced that they rarely participated in council affairs. The humans speak truthfully, the Xanthar said in their resonant, multi-toned voice. We have observed them since they first achieved spaceflight. We have watched them carefully, because species that develop such power usually become threats. But humanity is different. They are perhaps the first species we have encountered that genuinely prefers peace but can wage war with devastating efficiency. That seems like a contradiction. Someone said. It is not, the Xanthar replied. It is wisdom. True strength is having the power to destroy and choosing not to. True courage is being capable of violence but preferring compassion. Humanity understands something that most species learn too late. War is easy, peace is hard, and the greatest civilizations are those that make hard choices. Chen felt a weight lift slightly from his shoulders. If the Xanthar, who were respected throughout the galaxy for their wisdom and power, were vouching for humanity's intentions, it would help ease fears. But there must be accountability, the Valorian representative said. The Crithians cannot simply be forgiven for their conquests. And they will not be, Chen assured her. War criminals are being identified and will face trial under galactic law. Reparations are being calculated. The Crithian military has been completely dismantled, but we are also working to ensure that the Crithian people have a path forward, a way to rebuild their society based on cooperation rather than conquest. On the liberated world of Trellius Prime, former Crithian colony, something remarkable was happening. Human engineers worked alongside Crithian technicians to repair the damage from the liberation. Medical teams treated patients without regard to species. Teachers from 3 different civilizations worked together to create new schools. Commander Sarah Mitchell, who had led the liberation force, now coordinated humanitarian efforts. She walked through a refugee camp where thousands of displaced Crithians were receiving shelter and supplies. Many looked at her with fear, remembering the human soldiers who had defeated their military. But she worked tirelessly to show them that humanity's strength was not just in combat. Commander Mitchell, a young Crithian child, approached her nervously. Is it true that your people can destroy whole planets? Sarah knelt down to the child's level. We have weapons that could do terrible things, she said honestly. But having a weapon and using it are different things. We built those weapons to protect ourselves and others, not to hurt innocent people. Then why did you fight us? Because your leaders made choices that hurt people. But you are not your leaders. You are just a child who deserves to grow up safe and happy. That is what we are here to help with now. The child thought about this, then asked, Will you teach me? About your people? About how to be strong without hurting others? Sarah smiled. I would be honored to. Back in the council chamber, Chen was concluding his address. Humanity has learned from our own difficult history. We nearly destroyed ourselves before we found a better way. We built our defensive capabilities not out of aggression, but out of a determination never to be helpless again, and we kept them secret not out of deception, but out of hope that we would never need to use them. The Crithians forced you to reveal your true nature, the Thalian representative said. No, Chen corrected gently. They forced us to reveal one aspect of our nature. Our ability to wage war is real, but it is not our true nature any more than a parent's ability to fight is their true nature. Our true nature is in what we do when not fighting. Our true nature is in the schools we build, the medicines we share, the friendships we cultivate, the knowledge we exchange. He looked around the chamber at all the different species, all the different civilizations. The galaxy now knows that humanity can be dangerous when threatened, but I hope you will also remember that we spent 150 years trying to avoid showing you that side of ourselves. I hope you will remember the 17 peace proposals we offered the Crithians. I hope you will remember the warnings we gave over and over, begging them not to force us to war. And most of all, Chen said, his voice growing stronger, I hope you will remember what we did after the war ended, how we treated our defeated enemies with respect, how we helped rebuild what was destroyed, how we extended hands of friendship even to those who had fought against us. 6 months later, something happened that surprised many observers. The Crithian people, working with human advisors, established their first democratically elected government. The new Crithian Prime Minister, a former engineer named Korthak, visited Earth for the first diplomatic mission of the new government. Admiral Santos met him at the landing site. Prime Minister Korthak, welcome to Earth. Korthak looked around at the city visible in the distance, at the people going about their daily lives peacefully. Admiral, I must tell you something. When I was young, I served in the military. I believed the propaganda that strength meant conquest, that peace was for the weak. But watching your people these past months, seeing how you fight only when necessary, and how you help even your former enemies, I have learned what true strength looks like. What does it look like? Santos asked. It looks like having the power to destroy and choosing to build instead. It looks like being patient when others are aggressive. It looks like giving warnings when you could simply attack. It looks like... Korthak paused, emotion in his voice. What humanity has shown us. Santos smiled. We are not perfect, Prime Minister. We make mistakes. We have our own conflicts and problems. But we try to do better, to be better. That is all any civilization can do. In the years that followed, the story of what happened between humanity and the Crithians became legend across the galaxy. New species entering the galactic community were told the tale as a cautionary story and an inspiring one. It became known as the warning that went unheeded, or sometimes simply the 3-Day War. But more than the military aspects, what was remembered was humanity's response afterward. The mercy shown to defeated enemies, the help offered without demands for submission, the genuine desire to see former adversaries become friends. Other aggressive species looked at what happened to the Crithians and reconsidered their own expansionist policies. The Targoth Union, which had been preparing to invade several neutral systems, instead opened diplomatic channels. The Mekros Collective, which had been testing human patience with border incursions, formally apologized and proposed a mutual defense treaty. The galaxy learned a lesson that would shape interstellar relations for centuries. Humanity's patience should never be mistaken for weakness, but their strength should never be feared by those who choose peace. Ambassador Chen, now older and preparing to retire, gave one final address to the Galactic Council. 50 years ago, I stood here and warned the Crithians not to enrage humanity. They did not listen, and the galaxy saw what happened. But I hope that is not the lesson history remembers. I hope instead that history remembers what happened afterward, how we chose healing over vengeance, how we chose cooperation over domination, how we chose to extend friendship even to those who had been our enemies. He looked around the chamber one last time. That is humanity's true strength, not our weapons or our technology or our military capabilities. Our true strength is in our determination to do better, to be better, to help others be better. We are not perfect. We never will be. But we will keep trying, and we hope you will try with us. The chamber erupted in applause from 200 different species. The war had changed the galaxy's perception of humanity, but in the end, it was humanity's actions after the war that truly defined them. On Earth, in a small memorial garden, a monument stood honoring those who had died in the war. Both human and Crithian names were carved into the stone. At the base was an inscription in 50 languages. Here we remember those who died in a war that should never have happened. We remember the warnings that went unheeded, the chances for peace that were rejected, and the terrible price of arrogance. But we also remember the mercy that followed, the healing that began, and the friendships that grew from ashes. May all who read this understand, the greatest strength is having the power to destroy and choosing instead to build. And across the galaxy, species of every kind looked at humanity with a new understanding. They were powerful, yes. They were dangerous when threatened, absolutely. But more than anything, they were patient, they were kind, and they genuinely wanted to be friends. The universe had learned, too late for some but just in time for others, why humanity kept saying, "Please don't enrage us." It was not a threat. It was a kindness. It was humanity giving everyone a chance to choose the better path, and in the end, that made all the difference.